What's going on, guys? Today we have a special episode because we are going to talk about vetiver and one of my favorite vetiver fragrances that I've waited quite a while to talk about. I just wanted to get a lot of wear time with it and be fresh in the season of it when I talked about it. It's from the house of Mancera, so you know it's going to be a goodie. Strap up. All right, welcome to the Scent Bubble. I am your host for the afternoon. Welcome to the channel. Here we talk about my fragrance journey and all of the gems that I pick up and nice resourceful information that I like to package into a nice concise piece of content for you guys. I do not call myself a fragrance reviewer or a content creator of fragrance or a connoisseur or anything like that. I turn my camera on, I let you know what I'm buying, what I'm learning, and yeah, I do have a ton of fragrances as of today. But that doesn't matter to me. This is more of kind of an honest testimony, personal journey type of thing that you guys just get a live feed into. Today from the house of Mancera, we have Vetiver Sensual. And this fragrance is in most people's top 5, top 3, and oftentimes it wins in terms of being ranked number 1 as one of the best vetiver-based fragrances. Now, for those of you who don't know, I would say probably north of 50% of most fragrances put vetiver in the base, and sometimes you see it in the mid of a fragrance. It has a tendency to sophisticate a fragrance in a way that's very elegant, but depending on how you extract it, it can take on many different note profiles, which is why I believe it's so versatile and why it's used in so many different fragrances, because it's not a note where you plug it into a fragrance and it takes on a certain form. It can be represented with many different note profiles. And so it's kind of like your all-in-one great note to build a layer into a fragrance. But typically, I like to say it sophisticates a fragrance, but we'll break that down more specifically. Before we do an initial thoughts on this fragrance, I want to just show you guys something. So for those of you who aren't familiar with vetiver at all, because it is a very particular note in fragrance, no matter what form it takes on, vetiver lovers, you don't really have to convince them whether or not a fragrance is good. Most of the vetiver-based fragrances are pretty solid. And even the fragrances where vetiver isn't the foreground of a fragrance, it's still doing something to a fragrance that's very noticeable. But to those of you who don't really know much about it, I just want to show you what it looks like. So vetiver has long roots, and it's pretty much a grassy, tall plant. And as you can see here, this woman is, the vetiver is towering over her. And here you can see the root of vetiver. And over here, you can kind of see what it's used for as well as the look of it. So it's converted into briquettes for cooking. It's used as thatch, kind of like an insulation top for roofing. It's made into essential oils and craft production for market. It's used to feed livestock, used as ground mulch and soil reconditioning. So it's a very earthy piece of material. And depending how you salvage it and extract it, it can take on many different note profiles. Now let's just pop over to Fragrantica and load it up. And before we get into it, I want to give you guys my quick thoughts initially, even though I have already smelled this fragrance. Now, the great thing about Mancera is they hit you up with this 120, maybe even 125 ml bottle. When you purchase it, you can get a half size, I believe, or even a travel spray or a decan if you need, but you get a lot of juice for the money is the point. I think I purchased it for around $70. When it comes on sale on places like Joma Shop and stuff like that, you could typically find it between $75 and $85. But if you're really looking like I do before I pull the trigger on a fragrance, I was able to get it down to $70. Now, initial thoughts on this fragrance. This is a very I would say, warm citrus aromatic fragrance. The vetiver dimension to it gives it an earthiness, a bit of bite. There's a little bit of woods in it. I think vetiver can even come across woody. For those of you who don't know, vetiver can come across woody, earthy, inky, you know, even as far as black ink, for instance, with Encre Noir, soapy, green, you know, it pairs well with citruses. And in just going across the fragrances that I'm familiar with when I think of vetiver, even though there's tons of fragrances that have it in them, we have fragrances like Elysium where there's vetiver in the base. I wouldn't call that really a super vetiver forward fragrance, but vetiver does make up about 30-40% of that fragrance, which is why it's so sophisticated. Some other more forward fragrances I think about is Tom Ford's gray vetiver. We have Terre de Hermes, blood orange, bitter orange, Rhiny orange with vetiver. We have fragrances like Vetiver Sensual, obviously, Encre Noir Sport, Encre Noir a la Extreme. Most of the Lalique fragrances are vetiver forward, Lalique white, Lalique black, white and black, or black and white. They have a checker mix version. Lalique Ecousse, which is a very nice fragrance that I've recommended on the channel, and just so many others, guys. Vetiver is just awesome, and I highly recommend that you get into it because it's one of those notes where once you find which rendition of it that you love, you will absolutely love it. Some vetivers aren't for everybody, you know, like for instance, a lot of people aren't fans of the Encre Noir line, but there are mega fans of the Encre Noir line. But in terms of how it's represented, I believe in those three. You have inky, sporty, soapy, and more wood shavings, burnt fireplace type of vibe. But then you have fragrances like Vetiver Sensual, which is like what I feel is just this super commercial, multi-purpose, any season, any reason rendition of it with just bright, invigorating citruses, the lightest touch of wood, extremely aromatic, this green, slight spice, but not really spicy. I would call it more of just like the vetiver earthy bite. And then it's rooted in just like this really deep earthy sophistication. But this is an absolutely phenomenal fragrance. This will put a smile on your face. What I like about it is there's a lot of fragrances that are citruses on woods, but it's rare you get a citrus on woods fragrance that has a ton of dimension, because normally it's very citrus forward or wood forward, most of them being citrus. But there's a complexity to this fragrance where every time you smell it, you can kind of begin to identify each note individually, yet they're so complementary. Yeah, let's go ahead and go over to the window here, and I want to show you guys the note breakdown in detail. On the top, we have lime, lemon, bergamot, orange, and pepper. The pepper is extremely light. Like I said, it's more of a earthy bite than peppery harshness. Lime, lemon, bergamot, orange, you do get a lot of that, but it is very much dominant in the lime lemon category to me personally. In the middle, you have mint, orchid, and patchouli. Patchouli for that earthiness, mint for that kind of cooling sensation, and then orchid for that just kind of beautiful light touch of sweetness, so it's not too zesty. And then in the base, we have vetiver, wood, musk, oak moss, and amber. This is what I kind of call the holy grail of Freshie with Charm. These are all such complementary notes, and I think how they're distributed here, the order is done well. And man, you just get so much use case out of this fragrance. I don't want to sit on the note breakdown for too long, but let's just go through the usual suspects because I don't want to beat you over the head. This fragrance is super blind buy worthy in my opinion, especially when it comes to vetivers. It's probably one of the most wearable vetivers, easily in a top 3 of most reviewers list in terms of vetiver, and it's in the top 3 or top 5, top 10 of many people's favorite fragrances, to be quite honest. But this is any season, any reason, super ageless of a fragrance. I think it shines in warmer weather just because when that amber heats up, there is a warmth to it, even though it is aromatic and cooling with that mint. Occasions, I think it's one of those freshies with charm where if you treat it super casually, it does smell expensive on you. I think the sweet spot is like semi-formal or casually dressed up, upscale casual. I think that's like the sweet spot for it. But I think nonetheless, you could dress it super up and just smell clean and invigorating and make people smile. It's very charming for a date night fragrance that doesn't want to be insanely signature in terms of like in spite romance or in spite's not the word. You don't want you're not going for something like a Dior Homme or something like that, or a Givenchy Privé is going to be very much romantic seduction, dark, mysterious, whereas this is like it's still romantic, but it's somewhat playful, and it's very safe because it has notes that most people wouldn't be distracted by, citruses, woods, mint, beautiful sweet orchid, stuff like that, amber, oak moss, etc. Yeah, ageless fragrance, man. It can just be used with such versatility. This is easily one of those fragrances you don't even have to think about when you put it on. You know it's going to make you smell expensive. You know it's going to brighten people's day. It's not super intimidating. And yet, another thing about a freshy fragrance is a lot of times you struggle with performance. Or maybe the performance is decent, but it's not that loud. I think this is moderately projective, like a 5 or 6 power scale out of 10. But it's just where you want it to be. You're going to waft all around constantly. And I do think this is an 8+ hour fragrance, so long as you go 5 or 6 sprays plus. I would have no problem putting 10 sprays of this on, but the atomizer is so nice. It's one of those slow, low pressure mist, psst. It's a very long spray. So that's very nice as well. 5 sprays of that will probably be more like 8 to 9 sprays of a typical atomizer. So that's nice as well. I don't think there's any alternatives to this in terms of inspirations, clones, and dupes. But why would you? When you can get 120 ml for 70, 80 bucks, why would you really want to get a clone? This is one of those fragrances where I feel like 100% of the time it absolutely warrants the price. But it's not like a lot of fragrances that are north of $100. This is extremely well priced for the money, and it's a Mancera. You know what I'm saying? They really put all of the money into the juice. Even though the bottle is decently elegant, it's not a showstopper bottle by any means, but it is a showstopper fragrance. I would highly recommend it. 10 out of 10 for me, just because it checks all of the boxes. It has signature, it has performance, it has versatility, it's quality. I wouldn't even say it's very synthetic. I think it's very hyper real, but I think the invigorating, bright aspect of it might be the tiniest bit synthetic, but nonetheless, it's a high quality fragrance. Nice magnetic cap on the bottle. Great presentation. It comes in like a crushed velvet little bag or something like that you can kind of tighten up. I don't use that. That's an eyesore to me, so I took it out. But yeah, this is just a very nice fragrance, guys. I can't speak more highly about it. Again, in the vetiver category, I think this and Tom Ford's Grey Vetiver are some of the most wearable, commercially accepted vetivers, and it shows. These are high-selling fragrances. You'll never see somebody list this fragrance on a Facebook group or something like that unless they are just an insane hater. And even as I say that, I have yet to see somebody post this for sale because they bought it and now they want their money back. This is just an absolute banger. Even in the worst case scenario, if you didn't like it, somebody would come by and pay dang near retail for it as well. So yeah, this is Mancera's Vetiver Sensual. Let me know in the comments. I know I'm going to get a lot of people that say, yo, that's an absolute banger. But let me know not just if you love it and if you have it or if you smelled it, but what your use case is, how you've worn it. Have you received any compliments for it? I've already received a gang of compliments in wearing this fragrance. And I think the only other question I might want to answer for it is if it's unisex. It's listed as a fragrance for men and women. So I do think on a woman, it could go very nicely. However, I do think it leans masculine just due to the earthiness and the woodiness. But this would smell great on a woman too. I'd actually like to smell that. I might have my wifey throw some of this on and see how she enjoys it. So yeah, I wouldn't call it like perfectly unisex. I think it slightly leans masculine, but not in a way where if a woman wore it, you would be confused. I think this would absolutely go crazy on a female as well. And I do feel the same way if a fragrance sometimes can lean feminine but still smell great on a man. Again, that illustration of kind of that man with the khaki slacks and maybe the salmon or light pink or light lavender or pastel top, you know, a guy that's just super comfortable in his own skin. Sometimes it doesn't matter if something's feminine leaning, even something like a black orchid, for instance. I feel like that's feminine leaning, but on a man, it can smell really romantic and masculine as well. So that's not always like a deal breaker for me. But anyways, guys, like, comment, and subscribe. More importantly, turn on that notification bell. So that you can tune in. You know, we've got tons of episodes and various different content styles for all of you guys. We've got entertainment, we've got reviews, we've got hot takes for convenience for you guys, and we go live and do Q&As and all that good stuff. And I bring tons of different fragrance reviewers onto the channel. So if that's something you're into, make sure you follow and stay tuned with that notification bell, because the algorithm is constantly swaying you into all the different content you're into, and you want to be notified when we go live and when we post content, which is dang near every day. So thank you for rocking with the Scent Bubble. Y'all have a blessed week, and until next time. Oh wow, I've never had a camera stop right at the end like that. Anyways, guys, peace.